to making our nation better and stronger. I believe that with all my heart. That's why Stronger Together is not just a lesson from our history. It's not just a slogan for our campaign. It's a guiding principle for the country we've always been and the future we're going to build. A country where the economy works for everyone, not just those at the top.
Hillary Clinton's political messages during the 2016 presidential campaign were marked by passages of self-disclosure and unity. This, of course, in sharp contrast to running mate Donald Trump, who was known for his controversial messages surrounding divisiveness and a sharp self-awareness. Do women and men communicate differently in the political sphere? And if yes, what explains these differences? 3 studies in 1978, 1999, and 2011 examined the differences between male versus female communication strategies, especially in the political sphere. Results showed that women are more likely to rely on personal experience, build relationships and a sense of togetherness, and engage in low-power displays, like smiling and maintaining eye contact. Men, on the other hand, are more likely to focus on problem-solving, reproduce hierarchies and an us versus them mentality, and are more likely to assert their authority. So what explains why men and women communicate differently in politics? Social role theory suggests that because men and women are socialized from early ages to fulfill different roles, they behave differently. So even though nowadays more and more women are pursuing careers outside of their home, they're still expected to show traditional signs of emotional support, nurturance, and empathy. This impacts not only how women communicate in the private and public spheres, but also, and more importantly, how their messages are received. Perhaps the best question to better understand how gender impacts politics is thus not how women and men communicate differently, but rather how they are heard differently. Before she ran for president, Hillary Clinton ran for Senate in New York in 1999. She began her campaign with what she called a listening tour. Rather than giving tons of speeches, Clinton's listening tour focused on hearing what voters wanted and expected from her as their elected representative. She repeated much of the same strategies at the very start of the latest presidential campaign. What explains why Clinton would be so keen on listening to voters rather than talking a lot? Well, a 2011 study found that women in powerful positions are hesitant to talk more than others because they fear backlash from them. This fear is actually justified. Results from the same study show that while men in power who talk a lot are viewed as good leaders, women who talk a lot are judged to be bad ones. A study by the famous rhetoric analyst Carlin Campbell in the 80s concluded that women's communication strategies hold them back in the public sphere because they're less likely to be taken seriously by audiences. This study is, however, not entirely uncontested. In fact, a separate study 10 years later found that Texas Governor Ann Richards' personal tone and feminine touch actually helped her succeed in politics because she was able to build a relationship with voters that her male competition simply couldn't achieve.
But if you give us a chance, we can perform. After all, Ginger Rogers did everything that Fred Astaire did. She just did it backwards and in high heels.
So what have we got from all of this research? Well, we can understand that women and men communicate differently in politics. However, one could argue that politicians can adopt characteristics from both styles. One could argue that Hillary Clinton did just that, by using personal experiences to find solutions to issues like healthcare and education. She thus adopted that feminine characteristic of personal tone with that masculine characteristic of problem solving. Hillary Clinton did, of course, lose against Donald Trump in the last presidential campaign. However, research hasn't been conclusive in determining whether or not male communication strategies are indeed valued higher than females. More research is thus needed in the future to not only examine how men and women communicate differently in politics, but also how their messages are received and framed by audiences and the media in a time where gender expectations still prevail.